Oh, and we have a kitty butthole.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Always.
Here's
Why do they jump up like right there?
Moxie.
Oh, and she spilled something.
Anyway,
Isn't it basically iRobot?
So, no. Anyway.
Eddie's back.
There you are.
Goddamn internet.
right as we finally start to get on topic.
I know.
Yeah.
This is gonna be another disaster.
Yeah, she's a tool, basically. And then
what?
Will it keep recording when you drop, baby?
So the recording's fine on my end. Do you have Leo right now?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. What a disaster. Hey, welcome to the Good Games podcast. My name is James.
I'm Leo.
Justin.
And I'm the android sent by CyberLife.
Oh, again. It's almost as though we've heard this joke before.
I'm having deja vu.
This is the second time we've tried to record this episode. I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties. Jesus Christ.
But this time, we can learn from our mistakes and have a different ending.
It's the second
choices
playthrough.
Matter.
Choices matter. I'm going to make different choices. Maybe this time.
We won't talk about sex toys.
We won't.
I was going to say you were going to marry somebody else. Is that... Not get a puppy.
So, Detroit Become Human.
Yeah, Detroit Become Human is a video game. So yeah, this time I'm gonna make a different choice. In a previous timeline, Jess gave a summary. I'm gonna give a quick summary, and then Jess can fill in the details of what the fuck this video game is. It is the latest, at time of recording, the latest entry from developer Quantic Dream in their long-running game of this type. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, it's kind of hard to sum it up because
I'll talk a little bit about Quantic Dream.
A little bit of
Quantic
everything.
Dream is not necessarily a pioneer, but they kind of they really brought the choices matter type of game, that story driven, kind of playable cutscene type of game. They really brought that to the forefront of popular of the consumer. Like, it's really before you could have games like that. Like, there were plenty of games like it, but games like Heavy Rain, where there were, like, you had to cut off your finger and do shit like that. Things like that weren't exactly things that, say, a PlayStation gamer would be able to get a hold of. A lot of those games were usually popular on the PC. So yeah, it really brought it to the everyman. So Quantic Dream is a pioneer when it comes to that. Pioneers.
The studio director David Cage is all about trying to make cinematic experiences, and
he's basically trying to make movies like in video game form. Right?
100%. He's trying to make a playable movie. 100%. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't give a cast,
to varied success, to extremely varied success.
Yes.
I liked Heavy Rain. I didn't even, especially after James' review of it, I didn't even try. What's the other one?
So, I mean, they've got their first game. That studio's first game was called Fahrenheit 451, I think. Or I think in America it's known by a different name, which is not coming to the top of my head right now.
Game. Or no, that's a book.
Fahrenheit something. I don't know.
Fahrenheit 451
It's
is the book, but I, the game you're talking about is the one on PS2.
Yeah,
right? Like
do you know what the title is? Somebody. Anyway, I'll keep going.
I'm looking for it now. Fahrenheit.
It's just called Fahrenheit. Okay, I mixed up a book.
Fahrenheit 451 is by Ray Bradbury.
Yeah, well, anyway.
I was like, I know that book.
David Cage is trying to be Ray Bradbury. Anyway, that was their first game. Their second game was Heavy Rain. Their third game was, I believe, Beyond Two Souls, which is what I played. God, it was rough. Beyond Two Souls is a rough play. And then Detroit, I believe, is their fourth game, unless I'm leaving something out.
Let's take a look.
Sounds about right.
Let's just check our sources so we don't make anybody mad.
Sure, you guys can fact check me while I keep spewing nonsense. So Detroit is a game about androids, and it kind of bounces between this perspective of three different characters. There's Marcus, who is kind of this like android revolutionary who's like trying to free all the androids. And then there's Kara, who is an android. And then there's Connor. Connor, I don't know
a
how
very
to.
good boy.
Connor is he's an android also, but he's a Blade Runner android. He's K from the movie Blade Runner 2049. He is an android intended to hunt other androids, but specifically was deviants, right?
Deviant ones, yes.
Yes.
Which is kind of
This
what the
world's-
Blade Runners were doing anyway, right? Like
yeah,
they were
it's
looking
pretty much
for
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got it right. Like Connor is a very dweeby Blade Runner. Like he's definitely he's if Data and K had a baby. Like that's exactly what he is. Like just, there are moments where someone will tell him a joke and he's just like, "What?" So
Yes.
yeah, exactly. I'll show you where to put that. Where will I put it? What? So yeah, now that you've given kind of the summary, I'll give a little more depth.
Yeah. Flesh me out here.
So now Marcus, who is, I would say what did you say, Leo?
No,
it's gross.
It sounded very sexual as it left my mouth, and it did not intend to sound that way.
That always happens when you guys are on. Jeez.
We're horny. We're in love.
Tell.
We're in love. So anyway, enough about love. Let's talk about Detroit. So through the game, you're presented with three separate protagonists. Marcus is between Marcus and Connor, they're kind of considered like the main android protagonists. Like they're the focuses, where Kara's just kind of like, and Kara's here. Even though Kara was like the star of the demo for the the initial visual demo.
Yeah, I know they took a tech demo that they displayed at, I don't know, Game Awards or one of those things, E3, who knows, and tried to flesh that out.
Very impressive technology.
Yeah, it was an impressive tech demo. But they made that tech demo into a character who was Kara, and then just built a more interesting game with other characters, and she happens to still be in it. Anytime there was a scene with Kara, and I've watched Jess play through this game twice, anytime there was a scene with Kara, she was never doing anything. It always felt like the other two characters were doing way more interesting things.
I remember that's one of my biggest issues with the game was like, in general, I like the games from these developers a lot, like Heavy Rain and Fahrenheit. But this one, and I didn't play. I think I played through Beyond Two Souls. It didn't really leave a lasting impression, but this one left a specifically lasting impression in how mundane all of the activities were that especially Kara did. It's like you had to spend, and like you're just trying to like open a trash can or something, and you're just doing this little like joystick rotating thing, and I'm like, and you accidentally goof it up, and then she's just trying.
And then she puts it back. And you do it again. And then she puts it back again, and you're like, ah!
There's an excessive amount of that kind of stuff, which I prefer, like that kind of stuff to be more like in action sequences and stuff. And then like I'd rather just watch the rest of it. But I
exactly.
guess,
so each of them are supposed to kind of, show a different facet of, like it's called Become Human, and they're each, kind of showing something a little different about the human condition, and kind of, like, I feel like Connor's whole thing is that you're supposed to be able to view this from not necessarily an objective point of view, but from the point of view of someone who doesn't really belong in either category. He's not a revolutionary, and he's not human. Like he's not an android looking to, have a life, and he's not in the beginning anyway. So he's kind of on the outside of both sides looking in. And Connor, you really get a point to kind of drive the story in different ways. Marcus, you get a point to kind of drive the story different ways. Kara can die. That's it.
Okay.
Like, no, she can just die. No, like that's exactly what can happen. Like you can kill her off, and all of the characters you can kill off early. But
I think
Kara,
I remember enjoying killing Kara like different ways. That was like part of what I enjoyed about the game was
there needs to be a supercut of how many times I accidentally killed Connor in my most recent playthrough.
Jess's most recent playthrough of Detroit Become Human was on her stream at Werewolf Jessie.
If that's not it, it's Jesse
Jesse.
Genesis.
It's Jesse Genesis. Just kidding. Now it's Jesse Genesis. Jesse.
It's been Jesse Genesis since the last
Listen,
Yeah.
podcast.
I think we talked
terrible.
about that.
I'm terrible at this. Anyway, on her stream, she killed the character Connor about 18 different ways, and every time you kill him, I guess a new Connor comes back or something, and then she just hilariously kept accidentally killing him over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I wanted Hank to like me, and it turns out if you die a few times, Hank likes you. But
it's the secret goal of the game is just how many ways can you kill our characters.
Would you die for Clancy Brown is the name of the game.
So
but
yeah,
anyway.
I was gonna say, to address Leo's point, I think that's kind of a common criticism of not just Detroit, but these games in general, is like, very clearly David Cage wants to make an interactive movie, but how do you accomplish that? And I think one way is, you force the viewer or the player to make choices that affect the story, and then the other way is you can make them mash buttons during action sequences, or like, I have to, like, for some reason I have to do like a Shoryuken motion to open my refrigerator. And then
but see, that's what bothers me more than the action sequences. The action sequences is like, oh, that's cool, like I'm in it. But yeah, like the mundane tasks, I'm like, why?
And then you inevitably like fuck up the Shoryuken motion like 5 times in a row, so your character's just opening and closing the refrigerator door, which is like the most immersion breaking thing ever.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're actually a robot though, and you have to process something, and you process it incorrectly, you're gonna just like.
So that's actually what's happening every time the player fucks up. Like the robot's just having.
That's
a
supposed
glitch.
to be the yeah.
You're becoming the deviant. Yes.
But the point I was getting to though with Kara is that with Marcus, him dying has a significant impact on the game. With Connor, it has a significant impact on the game. And in Connor's case, he's kind of outside looking in. Marcus is trying to find freedom and trying to find his voice when he's really only ever known a life where he was sheltered and kind of given an opportunity that other androids weren't. And it became very clear to him. And he was like, you know what, fuck that. We're going to push forward and everyone's going to get the opportunity I had. And then with Kara, the point of Kara felt like you're trying to kind of decipher what it means to love and if an android is capable of love, and if what sort of it's kind of a mother-daughter relationship you're supposed to play through, but when she dies there's no significant impact on the story. And that's what makes it like she just it's like, oops, she's fucking dead, and like that's it. Like at the end of the game there's a couple of different ways that the game can end for Kara and her brood. So Kara's group is Kara, her daughter Alice, and their friend Luther. Now Luther is this giant, he's this giant dude who's just the sweetest baby, and he can die really early, and it makes me very sad. But again, no significant impact. There is a point where you're trying to get them across the Canadian border, and Canadian Border Control can grab you, and all 3 of the characters die right there, and it's very sad and it's hard to see. But they don't even mention it in the end of the game. Like, it's just like, also, the Canadian border sure is strong. Like, that's it. There's no, where if something happens with Connor, the entire trajectory for Cyberlife will change. The entire trajectory for his partner Hank, played again by Clancy Brown. If Connor if all of the characters die, Clancy Brown's character Hank will kill himself. Like, that's something that can happen in the game. And it's something they kind of hint at in the game. Like, he's already suicidal. And so, like, he will, actually succeed in committing suicide if you don't get the correct ending to this game. If Marcus doesn't succeed, these androids living in this, like, refugee camp Jericho, which is just like this abandoned ship, will die. So there's a huge sweeping impact if these other 2 characters die. But fucking nothing. Like, if Kara and Alice die, it's like, well, you don't have to
another day in Detroit.
Yeah, like you don't have to take out the trash anymore. Like
that was kind of like a different issue I had with the game. It's that like those like really divergent endings to me seemed like there was really only like one obvious narrative that made you feel like it was complete. I guess I don't know. I felt like a lot of it ended up in parts, like everyone dies and suddenly this guy kills himself or whatever, and like this is an ending, but it didn't feel like, it felt like more like you lose.
Yeah.
And there's only one correct way to play.
There is an intended path.
Right, an intended narrative. I didn't like that so much for a game that had such a divergent paths of choice and stuff. Like I would have loved to see more like endings that felt complete, even though it was sort of an alternate ending, given your choices.
Well, I will argue both for and against that, because there's an ending that I have chosen to get every time. Like there's the quote unquote best ending, where Marcus succeeds and Connor becomes deviant and stuff. But there are chances for you to do things like Connor becoming a deviant and then losing control and assassinating Marcus. So like that's an ending that can happen. If you go through each of the flowcharts, in Detroit, it's actually very interesting, because when it does present you at the end of a chapter, hey, these are the choices you could have made, but it doesn't show you what those choices it doesn't always show you what those choices are. And there are sometimes where these flowcharts get very complicated. I'm like, what would have happened if I'd done that? And it does tend to play into, like, I get what you're saying, where it's kind of, it's almost like it's not quite as egregious as the Mass Effect 3 ending, but it's, there are kind of funnels where you can end up, and things outside of major character death don't necessarily affect that. But there are things like Marcus can
the technical like implementation of all that you just mentioned, like the flow chart, and technically speaking and graphically speaking, like in the UI UX of this game is fantastic.
I loved the way they did that. Yeah. I love the way they did the timeline, and and I like that they don't tell you. They just show you that there are branching paths, but they don't tell you how to get to those paths. I really like that.
Yeah, there are parts of the game that you may never see if you don't make certain choices, and you never know exactly what that choice was.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, because there are points where, like, the ending for Marcus can be like he got an android revolution, but he caused a war in doing so. Like everything was completely violent, and they managed to save the day. And I have no idea what that branch looks like, because I hated the idea of Marcus, who was raised as this like gentle artist. Like in the beginning of the game, you find out like his father, quote unquote, who's this old man who's an popular artist, raised him to be or quote unquote raised him to be someone who was artistic, to be gentle, to be his own person. So the idea of him not being like that was kind of like, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right to the character. But you have that option. You can be like, hey, well, Marcus decided to just go full fucking Terminator and, fuck some shit up. So, and same with Connor. Like, you can go from him being Kay, who's like, oh, maybe I'm the android chosen one, to being like, no, fuck that. I'm killing deviants. I'm only killing deviants. Fuck deviants. Fuck Kyle Busch. Just everything. Like,
Nobody, we're gonna have to explain that, because that did not get recorded. So we'll have an explainer for what that inside joke, I guess, is.
No,
but
fuck Kyle Busch. If you're Southern, apparently.
Fuck Kyle Busch.
Fuck him.
No, yeah, there's.
That was my favorite part of Detroit Become Human. When Connor looked right in the camera and said, "Fuck Kyle Busch."
I already forgot what I was gonna say. Fuck Kyle Busch. And there is what the fuck were you just talking about? You just made a point, and I was gonna say something.
Where there's different routes. I was talking about
There's definitely like an intended path. There's like a good path for sure, and a lot of the like branching ones are like the wrong ones. And I think that is like, that's not necessarily my problem with the game. I think my biggest problem with the game is like the writing, and it's like heavy-handed to the point where it's just beating you with a fucking sledgehammer. It's like,
it's very tropey.
Yeah, it's like, hey, androids, maybe they can love, like, and then like, what makes humans human, like, and but like it's the most surface level exploration of that there's nothing,
like spoon feeding.
There's no subtlety in this. It's just beating you over the head with a sledgehammer of like, empathy
but it's all been
is
done
good.
before too, right? Like we
Yeah,
mentioned Blade
yeah.
Runner before, and it's like
Yeah.
literally Blade Runner.
Next gen. Come on.
Yes, Star Trek: The Next Generation. Yes,
That's
Star Trek.
just watch that.
whether
It
Detroit
yeah.
Become Human. You're good.
it's very tropey stuff, and he's kind of beating over the head with it. It is
Mhm.
all stuff that's like sort of already been explored before.
Yes,
So
yes.
that
That's
part,
kind of
yeah.
It's been done before and done better, I would say.
Well, that's unfortunate. I think a flaw in Choices Matter games is that they can't get too in depth with that because then you never come up from the you never get up to the surface again. You never get a chance to experience the full story. If you go
Yeah.
too in depth, you run the because we talk about these things like the flow charts and stuff like that. Like that's essential to this game design. And if you start making it things like, hey, all your choices matter, literally all your choices. If you pick those lays, you're racist. Like yeah, exactly. Like well, how did we get there? How did we get there? And, trying to make something that's deeper in this genre, I think is still a big challenge. So it's both a valid criticism of Detroit, but also, I think it's fair that it didn't get too in depth with it because uh it's also running a very thin line, and they still have to make a profit and they're still a business. So, covering things like police brutality and stuff like that in this game was like, oh, I mean, you need to do that, but also how do you do that without making a stand either way and letting the player choose? Like that's
Yeah.
because that's the entire So I absolutely agree with you on your point, but also I think it's a little tough for this genre and the subject matter. So
Yeah. And I think you're right in that games like this that have, 100 different branching paths, and if your choices really matter, how do you make all 100 of those paths equally deep and equally resonant? Uh,
yeah, how do you end up with not Kara? Like
right.
that's
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's, and to address the whole Kara thing, there's kind of a natural um a natural butting of heads, a natural push between uh Marcus, who is what they call a deviant, which I guess all that means is like, hey, you became self-aware. I guess that's what
yeah.
Right.
You
deviancy.
said no once.
Yeah,
Fucking deviant.
deviancy equals sentience, I guess, in the world of Detroit Become Human. So there's Marcus, who is like the android.
Essentially a slur, but yeah.
Yeah. They took sentience and made it a slur for some reason. So yeah, you have Marcus, who's King Deviant, and then you have
King
uh,
DD Deviant.
King DD Deviant, and then you have Connor, who is hunting the Deviant. So there's a natural sort of conflict between those two characters, and then there's Kara. I don't.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Yeah, it's kind of there.
there's a whole point in the game where they all come to a crossroads, and the only time you see Kara is like she goes to Marcus and goes, "Hey, do you have passports? Do you have a?"
I'm trying to
like,
get to
asking-
Canada because
Yeah.
I don't know. We had another writing team that didn't really follow the writing prompt.
Well, she did murder somebody, but also like at the same time, it's very when you've got Connor who's like deviants need to be stopped, and Marcus who's like I just want to live, and Kara who's like does anyone know the Wi-Fi password? Like
Yeah,
it's a little
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
different.
yeah.
It's a little fucking. It's there's a great meme I'll have to send you guys. That's yeah, it's a lot like exactly what I just described. Where again,
Right.
hey, do you guys know the Wi-Fi password? Alice wants to watch some fucking Coco Melon. Like, I don't know why that tickled me so much, but yeah.
I like that.
Oh, I get it.
You got fucking Justin on that one.
Yeah.
He lives
The
in a
Coco
Coco
Melon
Melon
was-
house.
I live in a
touched.
Coco Melon house. That's why.
Yeah,
I don't
me
even know
too.
what that
That's why it
is.
tickles.
Okay.
Oh.
It's for kids. It's for
I'm-
kids.
It's
I'm
literally
anyone who doesn't
nursery
know.
rhymes. It's just
Ah.
unlimited nursery rhymes with
They
little
figured
3D
out the
animations.
algorithm to take a baby's attention perfectly. and
Yeah.
It's like
attach
if
it to the
Caillou
screen.
got hit on the head and then could only recite nursery rhymes for the rest of his life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Detroit Become Human. It's
So it's a good game.
it's a game.
It's controversial. It's controversial.
I think
I think it covers that's so go ahead.
I was gonna say I think you're really high on this game. I
Let's
don't
make
know.
one thing clear. I'm extremely high on this game, but I also really want to fuck Mr. Krabs. So like that's
fair.
Yeah, like that. Someone from work's gonna hear this and be like, "Jess, what the hell?"
That was a very odd sentence when you put it all together.
I'm just saying, Clancy Brown could get it. He could get it then. He could get it now. Do you guys not know who Clancy Brown is? I keep saying the name, and I feel like it's not. Clancy Brown was the villain in The Highlander. Like yeah.
I haven't seen that in
ages.
eons.
I've seen it very recently. Thanks, husband.
It's
thanks to
bad.
my husband.
It's bad.
Yeah, like the
So good.
that fucking I can't even remember his name because I'm only thinking about Clancy Brown, but you know who I'm talking about. Chris Lambert. Chris Lambert's the real star of that movie. And I should say it's Chris Lambert that's the star of this movie, but it's the audacity to pick a Scottish man to play a Spanish man and a French man to play a Scottish man that really makes The Highlander a fucking trip. They were like, you know who would be a really good Spanish man? Sean Connery.
So they're just flexing at that point, you know?
Yeah, like we got Sean Connery to agree with this.
Yeah. All right.
But anyhow, so yeah, no, I think that Detroit Become Human is very good if you're if you want something that is story driven and does touch on things that are, I would say, topical now, especially with things like police brutality and the fight for human rights in general. So I think that it covers. It's very surface level. It's not going to do anything super deep, but at the same time,
it's not treated with a lot of subtlety either. It takes an issue and then it presents its stance with a sledgehammer. Like, okay.
Yeah. But
sometimes
again,
people
that's
want
kind of
that,
the
you know.
Yeah. And sometimes people need that. Sometimes people need to see, like, like they need to see Marcus make out with his girlfriend on air in order for the president to be like, hold on, maybe androids do fuck. Like that's like
androids can love.
Androids can fuck. She never thought of it before. But anyway, so yeah, I think it's a game worth playing. It is out on the PC as well as I know it's on the PlayStation. I'm not sure what other platforms it's on.
I think it's just PC and Steam. Jesus, Steam and PlayStation. Whew. My brain is not working. So let's get on to our top 5. Yeah.
Sure. Collaborative top 5.
Oh yeah, let's collaborate.
Oh, yeah.
So.
So our top 5 tonight is Choices Matter.
Yeah, our top 5 Choices Matter games. I'm gonna nominate from. I have one game from. I went one game per developer. My Quantic Dream selection was not Detroit Become Human. I chose Heavy Rain
for sure.
I chose Heavy Rain. I think the camp that's like. The lack of subtlety in the campiness of that studio works so much better in like a stupid campy detective thriller.
Noir detective
thriller. I don't mind the kind of like stupid tropiness when it's, I don't know, a detective thriller as opposed to when it's trying to, I don't know. But yeah,
too serious.
Yeah, I really liked Heavy Rain. I mean, it has all the same flaws that Detroit does, but I don't know. I liked the subject matter.
Works better.
Yeah. I think it works better in a whatever mystery thriller.
I think it works better in a game where morality isn't something that's at question.
True.
Because that's the other.
It is a more clear moral.
Yeah, like, hey, this guy's actually fucking killing children. Like, this is a problem. Like, one. If you have a varying opinion on whether or not children should die, that's that itself is a bigger problem.
You've got other problems.
Yeah, it can't devolve into a shouting match like a thing like human rights can. So I think that it was the safer bet, but I also think it deserves a ton of credit because, like I was saying earlier, Heavy Rain really brought the idea of a story-driven game, a cinematic game, really. Into the forefront because it came out on the PlayStation 3. Like, this wasn't something recent. This wasn't, in the, like, I feel like the PS4 and that, era going forward is really when, like, the indie darling and the games as art thing really took off. But in the era of the PlayStation 3, when we're pulling things like, Xbox Connect and, PlayStation Move, like, let's all we're trying to do what the Wii's doing. This this push for interactivity in games that are going to keep you up and active and, having quote unquote fun. The idea of a story driven game where you're really just kind of playing through a movie was not something that was games as art wasn't a big idea yet. It wasn't an embraced idea yet. So
it would have been great on the Wii.
Oh man, no,
motion controls and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, that actually brings me to a Choices Matter game that I don't think anyone's going to expect. But I do want to give it its credence is
Wii Sports. Oh,
yeah, Wii Sports. Wii Sports is Choices Matter in Wii Sports.
To keep your friend or not? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you
I
want
chose
to talk
to hit
to your
the ball
mother
out of
ever
line.
again? Yeah. I chose the gutter ball every time.
Leave me alone.
So, no, I was actually going to say Silent Hill Shattered Memories, which is both a remake of the first Silent Hill game, but also a game where, you do go through and you have things like quote unquote psychic evaluations where they run questions by you and make you think about things. And the choices you make in that do make differences in the appearance of characters and the appearance of different things within the game. It's a very high level Choices Matter kind of situation because it was really more of a facet of a larger horror game. But at the same time, with you saying doing this on Wii, that was another point where they could show like, hey, Choices Matter it doesn't have to be just a purely cinematic game. You can integrate it into other things. Or it's a good example of it. Doesn't necessarily mean it pioneered it, but it was a very good example of it, I thought.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is it the best one of all time? Probably not, but I did want to put it on the table because, But
I did
James,
not
do you
play
have
it.
more?
Oh, I
loved it.
got my whole top 5. My next game,
Okay,
I know
let's hear this shit.
Jess and Leo, I know you guys are gonna have this on your list. My next game was, I can't remember the developer's name. Until Dawn.
Hell
Yep.
yeah. Hell yeah.
Top 5.
I can see
Who
that.
made
Hell
that?
yeah. Fucking
Who
Rami Malek.
fucking made
Rami
that
Malek
game?
made that game. No, it's
Okay.
I
I can't think
like
of the
how
name
my
of it.
husband has to tell me to settle down, and
Fucking
I like how he
Supermassive.
was quiet the entire time. I was like,
Supermassive
"Hey, I
Games.
want to fuck Lindsey Brown,"
Yeah,
but I started talking
Supermassive.
about Rami Malek, and he's like, "Hey, hold on."
No, I just couldn't remember the studio's name. Supermassive Games.
Making
Yeah,
it happen for you, Jess.
and I remember this game. This game landed right about the same time as Beyond Two Souls, and I just got off of the massive disappointment of Beyond Two Souls, and then Jess and I, and actually Justin, sort of cooperatively all played this together, and I was like, "Hey, this is like, what if Quantic Dream made a good game?"
Well, here's
Yeah.
my favorite part. Here's my favorite part. Now, I agree that this needs to be on our list, but we cannot talk about Until Dawn without talking about my favorite part of Until Dawn, which was not Rami Malek, but actually us playing this game on New Year's Eve. Justin, James, and I were sitting there playing this game, and James had control. He had the controller in his hand, and we're in the middle of a point where he's not supposed to move at all, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
doing
he's
the
supposed to hold
it's doing like don't move with a
Don't
little
move.
bar on the bottom.
And all of a
James
sudden,
totally
the
moves.
fucking line drops, and we look over, and James is completely asleep.
James
And
apparently
he's
just
fucking
passed out like a toddler with the
And
controller in
then-
his hand.
I got sleepy, and the little gyroscope on the PlayStation controller went crazy because my arm dropped the controller.
And
That's
then
awesome.
my favorite part of it wasn't even that wasn't even my favorite part. My favorite part was this Wendigo comes out of fucking nowhere and it's trying to eat us. And Justin and I are panic grabbing for the PlayStation controller. And James, still asleep, I will use the Steam controller for effect, is going, like not letting us have the fucking controller so we can save the game.
We're literally
Two characters
screaming.
died.
I
Two
get,
characters died, and we're going, God, come on.
I get sleepy.
Amazing.
So Until Dawn is basically like a horror slasher film, but again, it's one of those interactive games, and your choices determine whether or not certain characters live or die. And again, I think this is a great genre, a great setting for this type of game. Just the camp works really well.
Yeah,
Yep.
horror works really well for this a lot. And the other thing I loved about Until Dawn is you could kill all of the characters and still get an ending. Like all of the characters could die.
Mhm.
Part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's another one where there's hundreds of branches, and it's like you could play this game for hours, and it'd take you a long time to get through all of them. The mocap was also very good. Like it wasn't amazing, but
Mhm.
all things considered, very good. So
I love that game.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. That was good. That is not normally my type of game, and I really enjoyed Until Dawn. Next one I have on my list is from a studio that made a whole career out of making these types of games. I have Telltale's The Wolf Among Us. I figured that might be on your guys's list.
Rest in power.
Yeah,
It's definitely an honorable mention for me.
Oh, you didn't
it didn't make my top 5.
Did you have The Walking Dead instead, or you
fantastic.
just didn't have any Telltale games?
I didn't put a Telltale game on there.
Oh, man.
They're all honorable mentions to me. I mean, they're definitely something I think of when I think of Choices Matters games, but there's just so many good ones I had to put on my list. So
yeah.
So real quick, The Wolf Among Us is if you've never played a Telltale game, it literally I don't even think there's any other gameplay other than you just determine what characters say in dialogue, and you determine what choices characters make, and that's it. That's the game. The Wolf Among Us is sort of like what if fairy tales were a little bit more dark and edgy. So you have like
which for the record has been done so much, but this game does do it very well.
And I think this is based off of a comic series, I want to say.
Yes.
And you play as like the big bad wolf, and Bigby, and you're investigating murders. Again, another just sort of campy detective story. A lot of these games are just mystery horror things I'm noticing. Anyway, what else you guys got? Or should I just go down my list?
Go down your list.
Yeah.
We all have lists. Let's go ahead and go. You go down yours, and then I didn't know if you were going to be the only person making a list. That's why I've been commenting.
Oh, I figured let's collaborate. Anyway,
yeah.
My next one, we did a whole episode on these games. Mass Effect. I mean the whole series, but I guess specifically if you make me pick one, then Mass Effect 2, which I think is widely regarded as the best one.
Sure.
My number one, is I'd be fine if we omit this from the list. I don't know if this really counts, and this is also a game I always put at number 1 slot on any of our top 5 lists. We've
talked about this game many times.
The Stanley Parable. We've talked about this game many times. It is a game where your choices matter, but it's not really what you think about when you think of like choices matter games. But it's sort of just a deconstruction of video games, and it's a deconstruction of what even are choices in a video game if all of the choices have been pre-programmed. It's just deconstructing meta narratives of video games, and whatever. It's the Stanley Parable. It's very good. So that was my top 5. What about you guys?
I can go next because I've played a lot of these games,
okay.
And I can give everyone else. It sounds like Leo has a top 5, but I don't know if Justin does.
I kind of do, yeah.
Well, but also before we move on, Deadass thought you were going to say Metroid, save the animals, kill the animals.
The ultimate choices matter game.
Fucking Metroid.
The only choice that matters.
Exactly.
I was going to put another game, which I always include. I was going to put Undertale, and then I was thinking about it. I was like, I mean, yeah, your choices matter.
I thought you were going to say another game that we always talk about, but
I'll get
to that.
Okay. Anyway,
I'll let Jess go.
I was thinking about Undertale, but then Undertale is really almost just a binary choice. Once you've done your first playthrough, it's either are you going to do the don't kill everyone playthrough, or are you going to do the kill everyone playthrough? But anyway.
So, all right. So we have a couple in common. Like I said, Silent Hill Shattered Memories I kept as an honorable mention, but
I knew you'd have
obviously Until
Dawn, yeah.
For our Telltale game, I actually picked a different one, and that is Tales from the Borderlands.
Of course,
I picked Tales from the Borderlands, which one, I'm really into Borderlands, but 2, I think the challenge that came with that game is that they're taking a first-person shooter that, yes, had a good narrative. They're taking that, making something that will expand the universe of that first-person shooter, and they did it very well. There's a lot of characterization. There's a lot of really interesting. There's interesting stuff, and they didn't just rely on yes, Handsome Jack is in the game, but they didn't rely on the entirety of the main cast to make this go forward. They created a new narrative, and it was very, very good. And I think that that's especially a challenge when you consider, again, that it was based on a first-person shooter. Even with a narrative-driven first-person shooter like Borderlands, the fact that they were able to create something serious and something that did have heartfelt moments and, moments that were sincerely, like, emotional and hard to see, uh, from a game like Borderlands 2, which is yes, has heartfelt moments, but is largely a fart joke. Like, that was an extra challenge. Where with things like Fable or the Walking Fables, which is what the Wolf Among Us is based off of, or The Walking Dead, they kind of already had a somber tone to work with. So I think there was an extra challenge there, and that's why that it deserves. If we're going to put a Telltale game in, it deserves that spot because it took a yeah. My next game is actually one I started playing recently, which is the Dark Pictures Anthology. Now, this is Supermassive's most recent project, and the Dark Pictures Anthology actually spans several games.
I was
It's an
going to say,
episodic
isn't
thing.
Until Dawn included in that, or no?
No. So
Okay.
Until Dawn was a separate entity entirely. The Dark Pictures Anthology is actually it's episodic. It seems like I was going to call it not exactly micro game, but as far as a game like this goes, very small. And the Dark Pictures Anthology is essentially like what you would see if you did like an American Horror Story, but with a Choices Matter type game, and with a lot better writing. Well, episodic in that it's each of the stories. So far, there are 3 out. There is The Man of Medan, House of Ashes, and Little Hope. I've played Little Hope and was extremely impressed by it, and now I have both Man of Medan, House of Ashes, and there's a 4th one coming out. So they're continuing to make this series, and the way that they frame it, the stories can be isolated, but the choices do matter. You can see a bunch of different things. There's ways for, like, I was reading up on Little Hope after I finished playing it, which is it's almost like a Crucible kind of story, but it's incredible because there are things that you can completely miss and not even realize it. Like, that's, so there were storylines and facets of that game that I didn't see at all because I didn't choose to do this, or because I let a character die too early. Because they annoyed me. But yeah, I was like, fuck it, they're dead. But yeah, so, like, I think that it's really doing the Choices Matter style game. It's taking what Supermassive did with Until Dawn, and I guess it's kind of like a double, like, it's kind of a double nomination for Supermassive to have both Until Dawn and the Dark Pictures, but the games are so different. The games are so, and really the Dark Pictures is such a refinement to what they did with Until Dawn that it's a completely different game. It's a completely different, so I definitely think that needs to be on the list. Another one, now obviously my next one is Detroit Become Human. We've already talked about it. But my number one is Life is Strange. So Life is Strange is it was a game that looked good when I saw it. It's done by Don't Nod and published by Square Enix. I expected it to be okay. I was high off of Tales from the Borderlands. I was ready to play another game like it. And the style looked nice. So I started playing it, and that handles the idea of things like both serial killers, but also heavy choices you have to make, especially as a teenager. Things like, am I going to sit with my friend by her deathbed, or am I going to, can I help this friend of mine who could commit suicide? Can I help stop them from doing that? There are, and again, these have serious impact on the story, which is, I know earlier I was saying with Detroit Become Human, it's a little harder to address some of this stuff, but Life is Strange really did it very well. The writing or the dialogue style can be a little jaunted. Like, I don't think they ever heard a teenager talk before, but the choices and the things that they have to go through and the things that they're, dealing with are all very, very heavy, emotional, and also sometimes very fun, very joyous. Like, it really captures the idea of being a teenager very well. And it's also, like, there's time travel and bullshit, but yeah, no, I think that as far as Choices Matter games it's awesome. And I definitely, if you're going to play a Choices Matter game, I would recommend Life is Strange.
Cool. I know you're big on that one, on Life is Strange. I haven't played it, but I know you've played a lot of it. I gotta check it out at some point.
Did you have any other nominations that we haven't mentioned, Leo?
You've actually mentioned all of mine except for 2. One that we've always talked about throughout this podcast. We have an episode on it.
Metroid.
I'll just say 999.
That is
lots
the
of-
choices matter game, kind of,
there's
but doesn't always
lots of
have the same ending.
choices. No, there's different endings.
There
I
are
did
different
die.
endings.
Yeah.
There is definitely a true ending, but there are different endings. Yeah, that's true. I kind of forget about that game, and it also has the same timeline thing that
That Detroit does. Yeah.
that Detroit does. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I that was number one on my list, just because that's probably the
That's-
choices
yeah.
game I played the most
Mhm.
reruns of. And then I have Dragon Age Origins, and that's really just more of a personal pick. There's probably it's kind of just a generic choices matter fantasy themed world. I mean, it's just like dragons and knights and shit that gets me. So
I think Justin's
yeah.
saying that choices matter right now very
All right.
much.
Yeah. Does Ethan have any choices matter favorites?
Coco Melon. Coco Melon
Yeah,
is his favorite
right.
choices matter.
Ethan, if you have to choose between
Dinosaurs?
Coco Melon
Ethan, if you
and Shark Dog,
what the hell's Shark Dog?
oh, it's on Netflix.
No.
I can talk the instrument.
Coco Melon, Shark Dog, or Blue's Clues.
On talking.
Come here.
I'm hearing Coco.
He told me to tell them.
So yeah, should we try to come up with a top 5?
Well,
Well,
let's let Justin
like I
get
said-
his in. Justin hasn't
Okay.
had his.
You've talked 3 of mine in, so I'm happy if we get Heavy Rain, Mass Effect, Until Dawn in there.
Yeah.
I come on. I think those have to be in, right?
Yeah, I mean that has to be on everyone's lists.
I think.
Can
those
I just
three-
say that I'm disappointed that Jess did not put in Shadow the Hedgehog?
How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Is that really like a?
That's a
Yeah,
choice
no,
game.
it's a choices matter game.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You have to choose whether or not Shadow fucking murders people.
Oh.
Is he good guy? Is he
Is he
Just
bad
kinda
guy?
doesn't give a
Is he
shit?
good guy?
Is he a
Or-
good guy or is he?
He's a good
Is he
guy?
bad guy? Yeah, no. So there's a running joke among our friends that I think needs to be explained.
That I don't think is a
That
joke.
I want to fuck
though.
Shadow the Hedgehog. I don't want to fuck Shadow the Hedgehog.
The more you deny it,
Oh my
I
God.
didn't learn this, so I'm just gonna spread the rumor even more.
Yeah. So okay, continue.
so wait
Justin.
a minute.
Sorry,
Now,
I had to.
yeah, sorry. Did you have any other ones, Justin?
The only one you guys did not mention, which I enjoyed, and it's a very popular game, very popular, to the point where
Metroid.
it's been released again.
Oh,
Skyrim.
Skyrim.
Ah, yes.
Oh.
Oh, yes.
You gotta say
I
that
guess
game.
choices do kind of matter, but
Yeah, they kind of matter in that game. And granted, there is like an ultimate ending, but
Mhm.
you know, you can do kind of whatever the fuck you want,
That's true.
and it kind of influences which kind of sides you sway on in certain towns and all that. So,
Yeah.
figure that's
I
a
agree.
good choice game.
I definitely agree, but I also think that kind of blurs the line between sandbox game and choices matter games.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't necessarily have a consequence for the final ending, like a true ending. Like, yeah, I can support the fucking
The Jarl.
Winterhold. Yeah, the Jarl. I can go Game of Thrones on this shit or not. The Stormcloaks or the, either way. So yeah, I agree and disagree, but let's go. Okay, so we know Until Dawn and Mass Effect are
and
what
Heavy
we have
Rain,
so
right?
far.
Did we all
Heavy
consensus
Rain
agree
has-
on?
I
Yeah,
have
that's-
to.
Yeah, those are definitely.
So I have to give. I have to say 9 on the Mass Effect. Only because they didn't. Because of how fucking terrible it was handled in Mass Effect 3. You have to punish it for that. Like, you can't.
I guess.
Because like the game now Mass Effect does have its amazing things, like the importing of save data to decide whether or not these characters lived or died or good or bad, that kind of thing is very, very, that is choices matter. But I think we can't make it a top 5 when you consider. But
I think
that's
you-
my yeah.
So my problem with the Mass Effect 3, if we're going to talk about Mass Effect 3, even though we already did in a previous episode, my problem with My problem with the third game, because like the very common criticism, which I think is a valid criticism, is that it doesn't matter what your choices are, you always get the same cutscene. What color? Pick your color. But like you're ignoring like every other decision that you've ever made in that game. My problem with the third game, like, because there's so many other times where your choices literally do impact the story, and in an impactful way, in a way that does actually change the thing, change what happens. My problem with the third game was just more about tone. The tone of that game is just really weird. I don't know why that game decided, because like the first, like I think that Mass Effect 1 is Star Trek The Next Generation. Mass Effect 2 is like Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And Mass Effect 3 is like Full Metal Jacket. Like, it's just like, what? Why is this like a war movie now? What? Anyway.
Yeah, it turned into more of like an action packed like Mass Effect thing.
I don't know why we just really wanted to make a shooty war movie. I don't know. It was very strange. The tone, Anyway, so anyway, so those three have to be on there, right? I'm over.
I've been outvoted on this one,
right.
so I'll let you guys have it.
I think you've been outvoted.
I think Mass Effect has to be on there just as a whole. Like,
yeah. We need to come up with 2 more games.
All right. Well, if we're putting Mass Effect on there, then I definitely want Tales from the Borderlands to be on there too.
That's fine. I think we need a Telltale Games rep since they did make a career out of making just these types of games.
The saddest part is they oversaturated their own market.
Yeah. There's so many.
They killed themselves.
They drowned themselves. It was.
There's so many of those games.
Every time they kept announcing a Telltale, I was like, guys, slow down.
Yeah. We're doing like, Batman. Great. We're also doing Minecraft. Why?
There's a point at which, there's so many Telltale games. At one point, I didn't even realize that there was a Telltale Batman game. I was like, wait, what? There is?
What? There's a Telltale Batman game?
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
We own it. We fucking own it.
There's a Telltale everything.
All it is you make the choice of where to spend your money.
Oh shit, though. That's the ultimate Telltale choices. Your choices matter with Telltale one, depending on. Man, that's a great idea, actually, if I did for the stream to play one of the Telltale Batman games, because let's face it, Batman is like the ultimate Christmas franchise. Like, it's,
when you think Batman, you think Christmas.
It is perpetually Christmas in Gotham,
Mm-hmm.
All right, one more game.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
What else?
Life is Strange. I'm going to say Life is
Strange.
Strange.
Life is Strange is probably a good pick.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick. We got to rank them now. Yeah. We've got Mass Effect. We've got Until Dawn. We've got Heavy Rain. We've got Life is Strange. And our fifth one was what the fuck?
Tales from the Borderlands.
Tales from the Borderlands. Yep.
So I'll put Tales from the Borderlands at the very bottom because, like I said, the problem with Telltale games is that they killed themselves. So that
makes sense.
They went from artware to shovelware real fast.
Yeah. I think there was some real merit to like a lot of their earlier games, and then we started getting into Telltale Minecraft, and it was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
This isn't even going to be a list about the games themselves. This is going to be a list about the actual
the choices of the company has mattered.
They made
that well be a list of the top 5 developers.
All right, what's number 4? Until Dawn, Heavy Rain, Mass Effect, Life is Strange.
I want to nominate Mass Effect.
Okay,
I guess Mass Effect.
That's fine.
Okay,
that's fine.
I think that the choices matters elements of Mass Effect are only a small part of.
It's a facet of a larger game.
It is. I mean, you've got a big whole like shooting role playing game, and I think
like Shadow the Hedgehog.
And I think and rightfully so, Mass Effect has drawn a lot of criticism for like the Paragon Renegade thing, because like a lot of the choices in Mass Effect, especially the third game, are just these very binary choices of like, do you want to be an angel or do you want to be the devil? And like, there are really good, like in Mass Effect 2, I want to say, no, 1, sorry, the Rachni Queen was like, there used to be this ancient race of terrible warlike insects and we exterminated them. But then later on in the game, it's like you find this Rachni queen and she's begging for her life. But if you bring her life back, that could bring about the return of the Rachni, which like devastated the galaxy. I think there's some like real, you kind of have to wrestle with the ethical and moral implications of that decision. And those are the interesting choices, not like Paragon Renegade, Angel or Devil. Like, I love when Mass Effect makes me go, okay, wait a minute. Ooh, wait a minute. But yeah, there's just not enough of those. Mass Effect needs more of those types of choices.
Exactly. No, I think there's a lot of depth to the choices in Mass Effect. I do agree that there is depth. Their egregious mistakes do need to be considered, but also, like Leo was saying, it's a facet of a larger game. Otherwise, Shadow the Hedgehog would be number one. So.
Right. All right. So our last three: Heavy Rain, Until Dawn, and Life is Strange.
I would say Heavy Rain needs to be 3. Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Now, the real question is going to be whether or not. So I feel like Until Dawn's going to get our number 1 spot only because it hits a lot of the points that we've said make a Choices Matter game very good. It deals with heavy subject matter, but also it deals with it's a horror slasher. So like you're expecting characters to die. Like you kind of have already come in with a set expectation. It's very cinematic. It's very, like it's a story-driven game where all of the characters could die or none of them could die. And each death does impact the game in some way. So I feel like it could be our number 1, but if only because I feel like it's a perfect example of what the genre could, what the Choices Matter game can look like. How it's something that, like Leo, I think one of the reasons you like this game so much is because your wife, who doesn't usually like video games, sat down and played through it with you.
It's
an accessible game.
It's a very if you have people on your couch, it's like a very like couch watchable game. Very couch watchable.
It succeeded in what other games of the genre couldn't do, which is just be like a very viewable gaming experience.
It is a truly cinematic game. Like it very much is a cinematic game
and just fun.
However, the problem or the merit for Life is Strange is that it does everything that Until Dawn don't. In that it deals with heavier subjects. It deals with things that are, like the choices in Life is Strange can be very heavy and very hard, which makes it a overall more difficult game to play, but it also makes it less of a couch watchable game. Because not everyone wants to see some of the things they talk about, like, there are things like drugs and molestation and things like that this game covers, and that's not necessarily an accessible thing. So now, but which one makes that, do we value the game because it's hard or because it's a shining example? Like, that's the difference. Like, is it?
Yeah, I think that makes a case for like having Until Dawn be number 1, just because it's like the more greater accessible game.
Completely agreed. Like, I think that as far as games as art goes, Life is Strange is definitely like is a top like 10 as far as games as art goes, because it's something that, it was published by Square Enix, so it's super accessible. It's got, so it does have accessibility, but because it's so heavy, it can be very hard for a lot of people to play. It's not necessarily a difficult game. Yeah, it's not a difficult game, but the content is difficult for them to address. Like, there was a point after one of the chapters of Life is Strange, where I just felt sad. Like, I felt really awful that something had happened and that I hadn't been able to do something about it. So,
but good art does that.
Exactly. So it's a very artistic game, but I think that Until Dawn definitely is our number 1 as far as Choices Matters games, because you can play that game, feel bad for your decisions, but also be like, well, it's a slasher, they were going to die anyway. Kind of like you can still go to sleep that night and not cry. So
there you have it. The top 5 Choices Matter games, according to the Good Games podcast. Number 5, Tales from the Borderlands. Number 4, Mass Effect. Probably the second one is the best one. Number 3, Heavy Rain. Number 2, Life is Strange. And number 1, Until Dawn. Those are all good. I like all of those. Those are all good games.
They're all good games.
Yeah. Let's endorse stuff. Who's going first?
I'll just follow up on my endorsement from the last episode. Watch The Wheel of Time,
Oh,
and
shit.
it is fantastic. It turns out. So yeah, I endorse.
I
show,
haven't.
which
I haven't.
hadn't watched before, but endorsed. But now I have watched it.
I
I endorse
haven't.
it.
I haven't been watching it, but I'm
You,
going to. I'm
you
going
better
to.
start.
I will.
Else his friendship
I'm
is
gonna be
over.
the tough sell on this one, but I'll give it a shot.
No, I'd like to.
It looks
I would
good.
say that the first episode does feel a bit rushed in its pacing. I think that they were trying
I feel like
to.
that's kind of all pilots. Like it's not.
Yeah,
You know.
it's a pilot. Like it very much feels like a pilot, but it still has its good moments.
Okay.
By episode 3, you're really starting to see more of the exposition and stuff, and like the thing that differentiates this from other like fantasy franchises. And then episode 4 is just bonkers good. So there you go.
Okay.
And that's my rule. If it's good by episode 4, then it's good. Like that's
Okay.
That's my critical review so far. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
All right. Well, for
Go
the
ahead.
Good Games podcast.
Watch Wheel of Time, I guess. I am going to endorse my Oreo cookie ball recipe.
Where
I
can you
think-
find this recipe?
So I will give you guys a link to the one that in fact, though, I might just write it out completely because I feel like the variations I've made on the original recipe I found are important.
You're
So
gonna have to
I
remember
make-
to send me that.
I'll go ahead and just write it down now because I need to write it out anyway. But what I do, it's a mint Kahlua Oreo cookie ball. I brought, I think, 3 sheets of them. And mind you, they're only like, it was only like an 8x6 sheet, so it really wasn't huge. But I brought, I'd say, closer to 50 of them to Thanksgiving dinner, and James had to steal a sheet of them to bring them back. Like he absolutely stole a sheet of them to make sure that he still had some afterwards, and he's still
Nice.
munching on them. They make a great, like, you put them in the fridge.
I'm just surprised James wasn't like already eating one while you were mentioning.
I wish there was
Right
some
now,
in this
just-
fridge, but they're not. They're in the main fridge. So.
Yeah, it's a
Great.
good. I'll give you guys the base recipe. Very simple to make. If you have a blender, you're basically set. It's a lot of they're easy to make. They're really really delicious, and they're a huge hit. I'm actually making them for a friend's grand opening of their tattoo parlor this weekend. So yeah, that's bringing my balls to a tattoo parlor. Let's see how this goes.
Hell yeah!
Yeah,
All right.
and I guess go ahead.
Oh, I got a quick double endorsement. So I'm going to endorse number 1 real quick. The new Resident Evil movie is good. It
They're
is.
fucking good.
Yeah.
It's just the right amount of stupid. Because like Resident Evil has to be stupid. If it takes itself too seriously, it's not Resident Evil. Yeah, it's just the right amount of stupid, and it's much more faithful to specifically the first 2 games and the remakes of the first 2 games, specifically the remakes. So RE1 remake and RE2 remake. Yeah, there's not so much from the original, but specifically the 2, and it follows the storyline pretty tight to the first 2 games, as opposed to the other Resident Evil franchise that came before this by Paul Anderson, which had his
The Alice verse, as they call it.
weird fan fiction characters, and like it was like the Resident Evil name was slapped on it, but
It
it
stopped
nothing
being
to do,
Resident
yeah.
Evil after a while.
it was not Resident Evil. Like it had some of
It
the
really
same
wasn't from
characters.
the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. But no,
Yeah.
this follows the first 2 games real tight. And I'm also going to endorse Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan. Is a YouTube channel to bring around the inside joke that Jess was dropping. It is a YouTube channel by this guy who's just like, he's an independent journalist. I think he used to work for Vice, but now I think he's completely independent. And his whole shtick is he just goes around to different big events, conventions, gatherings, concerts, whatever.
Now, mind you, he goes to very strange ones. Like it's
It's specifically like weird shit that you were like, oh, I didn't know that existed. Just goes to like weird shit, finds weird people, and just points his camera at weird people, and that's it. That's the entire YouTube channel. Is just, well, it's not the entire. He does some like legit journalism. But yeah, a lot of his more popular
awesome.
stuff. His more popular stuff is like the one Jess was referencing was he went to Talladega, which is, if you follow NASCAR, which I don't, is like a big
Talladega Nights.
big NASCAR event, and there's just a lot of really horny rednecks that he found, and
What?
he just
Show me your
points his cam.
butthole.
Yeah, so they just keep yelling. They keep yelling, "Buck Kyle Bush, Buck Kyle Bush," and then show me your butthole, show me your butthole, and that's all. It's very strange. Anyway, Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan is very good, very weird. If you want to see some weird journalism, yeah.
All right. I'm down for weird journalism.
Yep.
Mhm.
It's a YouTube channel. I keep saying Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan. It's a YouTube channel called Channel 5 with Andrew
No,
Callahan.
I'm gonna go to Channel 5. And if I don't
Yeah.
see it,
Yeah.
Why isn't Channel 5 working?
Yeah.
Listen, NBC, I'm here for this weird.
where's Andrew Callahan? Come
And I
on.
guess that came about because like some people asked like, "Oh, what news network are you with?" And he was just like, Channel 5. So yeah.
That makes
Channel
sense.
5. Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan.
He also got kicked out of the NASCAR like press pool because he kept asking drivers whether or not they've ever peed or pooped themselves during a race.
Which apparently is a common thing. If you got to
Yeah.
pee,
Oh
you
yeah, no,
pee-
they do.
Yeah, they
you
were
pee
fine.
your
They were like,
suit,
yeah, of course I did.
Oh yeah, you gotta pee. You got.
No,
they
apparently-
all have the same Southern redneck. You gotta pee. You gotta pee your suit. You gotta pee your suit.
Gotta let it go. Gotta let it go.
No, I heard they actually have like things set up in there
Yeah.
because they're just sitting in a car the whole time for like hours. I mean, you're gonna have to take a piss after a while.
Yeah, especially with the car, like the engine vibrating and stuff. Like nothing knocks something loose. Like a
And
good,
how
like
hot those things get. They gotta like prehydrate themselves.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I guess I'll go ahead. I bought a. It was on sale. I bought
Knife.
a. Yes, and I stabbed people.
I
I'm a
got-
murderer now.
Nice.
but it's
I
true
am
to
a
I recommend
actor.
it. Man, it is just so satisfying to kill people. No, I bought an automatic garage door opener.
Oh hell yeah!
It's like one of those ones that you can hook up to your Wi-Fi, and from your phone you can open and close your garage if you need to. The other nice thing is that the other thing is you can put a sensor on your garage door, so when your garage door opens, it'll alert your phone and tell you, "Hey, your garage door has been opened." It's nice in the fact that sometimes I go out through my backyard and then I need to get something from the garage. So rather than going back in through my house, through the door, opening the garage and get the stuff, I can just walk to the front yard, use my phone to open it, and it opens. I can open it remotely. So say if someone needed to go to my house and pick something up, I could just be like, all right, just let me know when you're at the house. I'll open the garage. You go get it out of the garage, and then I'll close it when you're done. That kind of thing. So it's very convenient to have.
Does it send your phone an alert if you keep the garage door open? Because that's what I need. Because I've like accidentally opened the garage door and then forgot about it.
Yeah, I believe you can set it up to have it remind you at certain intervals if your garage door is still open.
Yeah.
That seems good.
Yeah, because that's another great thing that it's for. Because how many times have you left the house just doing your routine commute to work or whatever, and you're driving, you're already on the main road, and you're like, did I close the garage?
Yeah.
You're like, I have no memory. I have no memory of closing my garage.
Thankfully for me, my
So-
Ring camera faces my garage, so I can
Oh, you
just
can just see it.
hop on the Ring app and see it.
Yeah, but I got it's like the Chamberlain one. I got one that's actually a garage door brand because I felt that I don't want to get some weird Chinese one.
That's the most fucking dad thing you've ever said, by the way. Like I got one that's a garage door. Like,
from a
like-
trustworthy American company.
how's the barbecue going, Dad?
Yeah. No, but I thought it was a pretty cool find, and yeah, it was really easy to set up, really simple to install, and it's convenient. You look at your phone to see if your door is open or closed, and I believe you can set it up with Amazon because Amazon does that thing where they can throw shit in your garage. So if you're away from your house and you don't want shit sitting in your front door for a long ass time,
open it up. Yeah.
Yeah, what you can do is you say, I want this package delivered into my garage, so it gives the driver temporary access to open your garage, to throw the package in, and then they close the garage.
Brilliant.
Which is a little sketch, so I don't have that turned on. That'll only be if I'm on vacation and I want them to throw it in the garage, then fine. I'll deal with it then.
But also, you're probably smart enough to not time your Amazon deliveries around a vacation.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, that actually sounds really good. I feel like we could use that because one of the best things that we've ever had is just like all of our locks being smart locks now. I
Oh,
have
yeah.
a very weird thing about locks. Like I don't like leaving doors unlocked. So, I'll be in bed, but I never think about it until I'm in fucking bed because that's when anxiety brain kicks in. I'll be like just about to fall asleep and I'm like, all the doors are unlocked and someone's gonna rob us. And then so I can just pick up our phone and lock all the doors and or if I'm feeling squirrely, I'll unlock the doors and let fate decide.
Of all the stupid smart devices I've bought, the smart locks are the most like daily used and like practical thing. Because you can
That's
do the
the thing
same.
we've had to replace the batteries in as far as our smart devices go. Like those are the ones that.
But yeah, it's so nice because you can do the same thing with the garage door. It's like, oh, did I lock the door? Did I forget to lock the door? You can just log on to your phone and be like, okay, it's locked. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is it. Anyone have anything else?
I stream.
Oh, you do stream. Check
yes,
out
Jesse
Genesis.
Yeah, Jesse Genesis.
Jesse Genesis. Check out that stream.
I do what Nintendo don't.
You do what Nintendo don't.
Our
next
you're
going to be playing Final Fantasy VII Remake next year, right?
Yeah. Or this month, but or
this
December.
Month. Hell yeah. Also coming up in December, our next episode, we're taking a little break from games. We're going to be talking about our favorite Christmas movies. It's our Christmas episode. We're going to be talking about at least Jess and mine and maybe Justin's favorite Christmas movie. I don't know about you, Leo. Jingle All the Way. Okay, well, all of our favorite, collective favorite.
Without question.
Put that cookie down.
Maybe Die Hard is a contender, but
fuck off. Jingle All the Way is.
Well, we're going to have to come up with our top 5 Christmas movies, and we're going to have to decide once and for all if Die Hard is a Christmas movie and whether or not it makes the top 5.
This is where it will be definitive, people.
Yep.
This is going to be it's going to be a shouting match. I feel like
good. I'm glad we got 2 different people on either sides of the Die Hard is a Christmas movie and Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, because I frankly just don't care.
Yeah. Like, oh, Die Hard's a Christmas movie because it has a Christmas party in it. Like, okay. But anyway, no, I'll save that rant. No, it's a valid
look forward
point.
to that. Look forward to that episode. We're gonna have a good debate about Die Hard, I guess. And we'll be talking about Jingle All the Way, which go watch that movie. It's dumb. Go watch it.
It's
great performances by Phil Hartman and I guess Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He's always great. Come on.
Oh my
Arnold
God.
Schwarzenegger as a dad.
Yeah.
That's all you need to hear.
Like
Jamie.
it's our.
Jamie.
So good. I got your Turbo Man. Turbo Man.
I got
Also
your Turbo
starring
Man
a baby Anakin Skywalker. So.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's just awful in that movie.
He's a baby. You guys gotta let the poor kids. He's not fucking Haley Joel Osment and fucking McKenna Grace happen to the world. Now everyone wants kids to be good at acting. Like
right.
He was a kid.
This is pre-kids being good at acting.
Yeah.
Anyways,
all right,
get
look forward to that
that
episode.
Yeah.
All right. It's late. Let's go to bed. For the Good Games Podcast. I'm James.
I'm Leo.
Justin.
And I'm the android sent by Cyberlife. I'm Jesse.
All right, we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye. Choices matter.
Oh, and there goes Jess. All right.
She does that every time.
Gone.
she did that last time, right?
Yeah. How you been, Leo?
Good. Yesterday was our worst trip to Florida ever.
Oh, I didn't even know you were here.
Last week.
I don't even know you were here.
we went down for Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
And on the way down there, first we decided to leave a day later because, well, we didn't plan too well, and we had to do a lot of prep and packing. So we decided let's delay by a day. Then we leave on Sunday, and our tradition is to stop and get Chick-fil-A breakfast every time we head out to Florida for a long drive.
Got to do
No
it.
Chick-fil-A on Sunday. So
Oh yeah.
strike number one.
Yep.
Then
Horrible.
we
Trip
decided to take
ruined.
off at like 2 a.m. And of course, it's like, a tough drive, mostly because we weren't gonna break up the trip like we did the last couple times we went down and like stay the night somewhere with Isaiah. So we're just gonna do the whole trip. So we thought it'd be better if he was sleeping for the first part of it. But then he woke up and was really hungry, so we stopped and got him a muffin at Panera Bread. Isaiah doesn't normally eat like a lot of sweets. So then we ate some sweets and then got in the car, and very shortly after, in the middle of the drive, he was just like, bleh, and I was like, oh no, I had to pull over and like wipe everything down. And I mean, I was sitting there wiping like the inside of a car seat for like an hour. Our
disgusting.
10-hour drive turned into like 16 hours.
Yikes.
That was last week for me.
Yikes. All right. Well,
Yeah, we had to, all of our plans to see friends and stuff went out the door.
My nephew pulled out a sex toy during Thanksgiving.
Well, that just sounds like a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, hold on. What kind of sex toy?
Well, let me explain.
And how old is your nephew?
3.
Okay.
He won't remember, but we will.
17.
I was picturing like a teenage kid. Yeah.
Yeah, 23. Came
Hey,
out with a
guys.
butt plug saying, "Hey guys, you want to have a real good? Who wants to stuff this turkey?"
Christmas came early.
So did I. But anyway, so this is going to be another 18 plus.
Yeah. This is an adults only podcast.
That's assumed when Jess is on the.
Yeah, I'm already
Did
gonna have
become
to.
nasty.
Already gonna have to do some interesting editing here.
What, because of Moxie?
Well, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, just cut it at Moxie's butthole.
Right.
Yeah, Moxie's butthole. So, anyway, after seeing Moxie's butthole, my sister-in-law and I were off talking, and like we were kind of just off in another room talking, and our nephew kept running in there, going like, ah, and it looked like he had like a computer mouse in his hands. So we were like, whatever, he's 3, let him live his life.
Right.
He wasn't hurting anybody. So he keeps running in and out, and then he finally stops. He starts opening and closing it. And we're like, mice don't do that. So let's see what you got. So we look at it, and it's a sex toy that sucks on your And we're both mortified because there are only 2 women that live in this house. And neither of them are a good option.
Well, when it's your family, none of them are a good option.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
like,
it's a perfectly natural thing.
well, yeah, but like if we had like a teenager living in the house, it'd be different. But when the choices are my mother and an autistic child, it's like,
why is it better if it's a teenager? What?
Well, no, again, if
Teens
it's like
be doing crazy things, I guess.
no, like I'm not saying like a random teenager. Like if we had a younger sibling, it'd just be kind of like, I'm never gonna let this go. But like it's not as mortifying as us saying, "Hey, nephew, where'd you find this?" And him going, "Grandma's room."